Hello, Timothy. I see you with your new water bottle there.
I
We were talking
know that I
about it.
got at your book signing at Indigo Chapters yesterday and it was on sale.
I
So
have to
I'm trying it out because it's the whole metal thing, but congratulations on your book signing.
thank you. I have to tell you, I pointed out that those water bottles just drowned me every time I drink from
I
them.
know. And I did. I mean, you did mention to me, but it doesn't have the straw thing, but I have one with the straw thing. I don't know if people are going to find this interesting, but I think that we all have a favorite kind of water bottle, and I just like the color because
Yeah,
it
I like the
kind of
color.
goes with my travel website. So
Well,
congratulations on your book signing and now you're on the shelves in Indigo Chapters
I'm
and
on it.
online
Yep,
and
we're here.
online.
Um,
Yep.
I left my water bottle. I had enough time to grab some water, no coffee, because as I told you, I was coming in hot because I'm trying to take care of my mental and physical health. And I was at the gym. And then, of course, we ran out of coffee beans. So then I had to stop there. And so here I am. I'm alive and I'm here.
Okay, so can I ask you like a completely random question that I haven't prepared you for?
Always.
Why didn't you like the elastic band exercise yesterday that you were going to after your book
The
signing?
bungee workout
Yes. What
was
happened? Because you
horrible.
sent me a very colorful text about how it's not
Here's
for
the
you.
thing. I enjoy trying new classes at the gym, and the
Okay.
bungee class has been
Ready.
on my list. And I was like, that looks kind of fun. Not
Right?
in practice, though. Here's the thing. When you have past trauma and you have like CPTSD and you're used to fading into the background, and especially when you're having problems, you don't want anybody to look at you. Let me just say that the bungee workout one wasn't that easy for me. Apparently, my instructor says I have trust issues. Who knows, right? Um, she's like, plank. Oh, it's a trust thing. Great. Okay, you'll work up to that. But and she was only trying to be helpful, to be honest. The entire time, there's only 7 people in this class. The
Right.
entire time, she knows all of our names, and she's like, Amy, do this. Amy, let me see. Amy, let me fix. And it was like announcing it all the time throughout the hour. And I was like, you got to stop. I was just about in tears because I was like, stop calling my name. Just ignore that I'm here. Let me suffer through this in silence. If I could have unhooked my own bungee, I would have unhooked it and walked out. Like I was literally just tethered there.
Because
So
I thought you were going to have so much fun, and I've done a few things that involved a harness.
those things are more fun than this.
But like zip lining off a mountain and stuff like that. I
Yeah,
thought that you were going to tell me that it was like the digging in
it
thing.
did. It did dig in. So that was one of the problems when I
So
went to do this
it digs
plank
into the
thing.
vajay because that's not fun. You don't want to work out with like something
Well,
digging in.
it was digging into my hip at the front, and when I adjusted, it would dig into my side. And it's like I couldn't get around it. At some point, she ended up putting 2 separate bungees on me. I'm like, what is happening? Like, no explanation, announcing it in the class. I had a horrible time, but I still burned 350 calories, which was
This
enough
sounds
to
like
look at the.
the worst S&M class ever.
Yes, it was. I was like, stop being so perky. Stop calling my name. Let me suffer in silence so I can get the hell out of here.
Give me a ball gag, God damn it, because I'm
It was
about to like
awful.
spit something out at you.
Oh my
That was
God.
like our previous. So if you don't know the joke about the ball gag, you should go back to our previous episode where I talk about how I met a sex therapist who told me about ball gags. So this isn't, I don't mean to be completely inappropriate, but I don't care.
So today we're going to
Oh,
add on to my horror because today we're bringing back
rough.
Margaret, who is our grief specialist, and we're going to talk about divorce and estrangement. And if there would
Fun.
be one episode that I didn't cry on, it's not going to be this one. 'Cause
No,
no, I
I
can't.
might. I might.
It's a
Um,
thing. But you know what? There's
But we
lots of
love her.
us.
We love her. She has so much wisdom, and I want to talk to her. Am I British? I want to do speak with her. I want to talk to her about this camp that she just finished for girls' self-esteem. Super
Yes.
important.
Yeah, super
So,
good.
mm.
So we just thought that like, we're digging into our own shit today, really. I mean, we dig into it here and there, and it's like divorce and estrangements, both of them are up our alley, and I'm sure we're just gonna have a delightful effing time.
So just to be clear with everyone, the ball gag was not part of
Not part of this
my
episode.
personal history. It was just something we were exploring with this sex therapist.
Yeah, not a part of
I
this
want to be clear.
episode. That's on
Everything that you
Sue's
see
episode.
going forward here about divorce and estrangement, I'll totally own that shit.
So put some Bailey in your coffee, everyone
No,
who's
I can't do
watching.
that.
And we're just gonna get through this because it's a super, both topics are super important and really, really heavy, and they really F with you. So we're gonna talk to Margaret. Let's bring her in. You cool?
Yeah, I'm just gonna
All right, we're bringing her in.
fix my camera a little bit because as you know, I do all these things on the road, so I don't have a nice studio like you have.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. One of us has it at least. So,
She is.
hi,
Hello.
Margaret.
God, you're
Hello.
looking gorgeous.
Well, thank you.
So
Af-
beautiful.
After
Thank
all
you.
those young women, like it completely exhausted you next week or last week?
Oh yeah, today I'm vertical, but that's pretty much it. I managed to have a shower and get dressed for today, but I've been trying all morning to write my newsletter and I'm literally sitting at the screen going, what am I going to write today? My brain is toast.
Imagine,
You're
imagine,
nailing it. You're here. You made
imagine
it.
the
I
young
am. I
women
am.
burning you out. My God, who could have imagined
Yeah.
this, right?
Yeah. Well, they were
Um,
awesome. They're really awesome. And they're a great group of girls to be
yeah.
around. But yeah,
So,
it was,
so,
yeah.
uh, so, Margaret, Dennis, before we even introduce the idea of grief and estrangement, because that's going to be super fun, tell
Yeah.
us about this girls' camp and why it matters.
Oh, for sure. I could talk forever. So the girls' camp is called Unshakable Me. This is our third summer running it. We offer it out near Pakenham at the Cedar Hill Schoolhouse in the Ottawa area. And then we also, and that's usually in July. And then in August, we run it again down in Blackstock at a place called Souls Path Retreats. And it's just about 20 minutes north of Oshawa. And the camp is really focused on girls age 12 to 16 who are struggling. It's an empowerment camp. So we tend to attract the girls who are neurodivergent, girls who struggle with social anxiety, depression, ADD, ADHD. They've been bullied at school, and they just have really poor self-esteem and self-image, which for a majority of teen girls, hello, that's who they are. But we bring the girls together and we spend the week doing fun things. We do a lot of crafts. My business partner is like Miss Crafty. She's amazing. I can draw a stick figure and that's about it. And she leads all the crafty stuff. And then together we lead sessions around naming your emotions. We do an emotional check-in at the beginning and end of each day. So girls learn how to articulate what they're feeling. It's not just, I'm happy. Okay, well, let's go deeper than that. What kind of happy? Are you excited? Are you elated? Really giving them the language. And we also talk about hormones and how your cycle impacts you and how it's different from a boy, because a lot of girls don't understand what a hormone is. We talk about bullying. We talk about belonging versus fitting in. This year, we introduced two new topics, one on grief, that's my baby, and another one on trauma, so that we could give them the language around what trauma actually is. We didn't go deep into examples. We gave sort of generic examples for them because some of the girls come to us who have experienced trauma. It could be a divorce, they're abused, they've been bullied, there's little trauma and there's big trauma, but we found a statistic last week that blew my mind. And I included it in my newsletter last week that 70% of adolescents experience some form of trauma. 70%.
I believe it. I mean, there's
Yeah,
so
not
many
even a
different types
surprise.
of trauma, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
just,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting. I think for those of us who have had profound trauma as children,
Mm-hmm.
we're not surprised. I want to ask you one more question because I
Sure.
did, as you know, I do show notes and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
but I am curious a little bit about this camp in that do the parents know? Because I've seen in the news recently, mostly out of the United States, that some parents don't want their children to be exposed to information related to trauma, abuse, depression,
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, and that kind of stuff. How do the parents kind of get on with this concept that you're going to talk about heavy shit?
We give them a schedule at the beginning of the week. We say, here's our schedule. This is what we're talking about.
That's awesome.
So the parents know. We also don't, the girls only share if they want to. We are the only ones who know if somebody's had anything happen to them. And that's only if the parents have shared it with us. So we have girls coming to camp that there could be things that we don't know about, right? But we introduce topics gently. We're not like, this is trauma, blah. You know, we don't throw it in their face, but we give them examples of things that they could have experienced. Like maybe somebody committed suicide at their school. They may have known them, they may not have known them, but they're still impacted by it. Maybe their friends or parents are going through a divorce, but they're not. And they can understand then that maybe their friend is struggling. And it's giving them the actual scenarios that could be happening, but it's giving them the language around it. I think so often, especially as girls, hormonal teenager girls, when their emotions are big already, right? We're like this. We have one of our days is called the roller coaster, you know, riding the emotional roller coaster. And it's all about that. And when you throw in trauma and grief and bullying and trying to fit in on top of managing all of that, it's brutal. But we're very honest with the parents, and the girls have journals that they are allowed to share or not share. We give them that autonomy, but the parents know what we're talking about. It's on our website. It's on what we give the parents. We give them the lowdown. And if there's any topic that they don't want their child to be part of, that we put back on them, that they need to let us know.
So Amy, I'll hand it over to you, but just the magic of what you're doing, Margaret, is so I was a summer camp kid, and I was sexually assaulted when I was 8, not at summer camp. And then I went to summer camp, but my parents were never doing proactive stuff. I mean, they didn't really process it until I went public on the national news when I was in my mid-20s. So like, good for you. Good for you, man. I just think it's amazing because as we know, there's probably about 1 in 3 of us women, probably 1 in 4 boys. And to have that kind of support and to have the parents involved is life-changing. Like when I announced it nationally, my dad didn't show up for the big announcement because he thought that that people might think that it had been him. It wasn't. It was a
That's
19-year-old adult of my best friends, like her brother. But my dad was like so humiliated. 10 years later, he sent it out to everybody. I was doing some appearance in national news. He sent it out to everybody associated with Royal Military College, saying that he couldn't be more proud because times had changed. So,
that's nice that he acknowledged that for you
so
too.
congratulations to you. It's a
Thank
thing
you.
for girls who have had, and boys. I don't know that much about the boy part of it, but congratulations to you. That's amazing.
Thank
We
you.
didn't even introduce you properly, so I'm gonna leave that to Amy because I got all choked up about like the camp and the everything that you're doing and how important it is.
Well,
Thank
my
you.
hopes is that this camp and these conversations will limit the amount of these girls going through our topic today, which is divorce, which is estrangement, which is all the crap that none of us want to deal with. But because you didn't exist when I was a kid, because you were a kid, and I'm not sure that like the people, when I was growing up, that wasn't a thing, right? To Timothy's point, like we're not talking about a lot of stuff, and I'm hoping that there's enough of a shift because I think that if somebody had intervened in this way and gave me language that I've only recently found in my life, that maybe I wouldn't have gotten stuck with an abusive husband, and maybe I wouldn't have had to estrange from most of my family. And so that's what we're talking about today. Margaret Dennis is our resident specialist on grief, and we're happy to have you back. And you love to dig into all the crap that makes me cry. And so, hang on for
Let
the
me go.
ride.
Amy, can I just clarify, not the current husband, right? Like we love him.
That one's good. That was good.
I just want to
But the
clarify.
first one was the practice husband.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, and you know, it was a rough practice,
It
but
was a rough
I want to
practice.
clarify, we love this one.
We love this
Mhm.
one. He's fine. He's great.
We love him.
But a lot of us, I mean, more and more people are not giving a hell about getting a divorce. It was stigmatized before. And then more and more, I've even talked to, people in my family, and I found out like more and more that some of my aunts were like remarried, which is stuff I wouldn't have known because I was too young, because of those reasons, because of abuse and because of different things
Mhm.
like that. I mean, there's 6 million reasons to be divorced, but
Yes.
it's when you get into like this, kind of where we're leading this conversation today is like to tag up with that estrangement and stuff like that. It's tough. It's really difficult to get out, and
Mhm.
not everybody does. And so in this episode, we're really hoping to shed light into that area because I know how difficult it was for me to get out of my first marriage. And I'm watching others in my world struggle with that. And because
Mhm.
I am now educated in a different way, and now I've gone through that stuff and I can see red flags and I can see, but most importantly, I can see that the other side is better. When you're in
Yes.
it, you don't know. And you're like, this is
Mhm.
what I know. And leaving is just a huge up haul. And especially when I left, I didn't have kids, and thank goodness for that. Honestly, that was like not being tied to that person the rest of my life is amazing. But not everybody has that. And so how do you work with that? How do you get your head around it? Because I think that most of the people that get divorced, especially when trauma is included, don't think they deserve better and
Mhm.
just need enough of an oomph and enough of a belief in yourself to lunge yourself off that couch and get out that door.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting how our beginning of our conversation actually leads right into this because
Mhm.
there is a lot of scientific data around why we stay in abusive relationships, right? Our brain actually is wired to stay with what's familiar, no matter how bad it is for us, because our brain looks at it and says, I can at least predict what's going to happen. I
Mhm.
know that if there's a conflict, I'm going to get hit, or I know that they're going to yell at me, or there's something else going to happen. And we get into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. We have our trauma responses, but a lot of our background comes right into that situation. Were
Yeah.
we abused as a kid? Did we have, did we struggle to belong, to be chosen? Where's our self-esteem at? Is it in the toilet? Well, then this person yelling at me is only, you know, they're what do you call it? Menopause brain, losing my words. They're reaffirming that that's our thoughts, right? When they're telling us
Mhm.
you're useless, you're stupid, you're like, well, these are things I thought about myself most of my life. So of course they must be true because now you're telling it to me too. And
You
so
were,
we get into that cycle, right? And our brain wants us to stay there. Leaving a marriage, tons of grief around that for sure, no matter what kind of marriage you're leaving, because you're still leaving that familiar space. But
you were
getting,
literally,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you were literally with the trauma part of like that part of the divorce, if that is a part of it, you
Mm-hmm.
were literally trained to do that. If you're,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, most of us that end up in abusive relationships came from abusive relationships is kind of what we're
Yeah.
talking about, right? And it's like you were been
Mm-hmm.
trained your entire life,
Mm-hmm.
and every year that goes by makes it harder to leave.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And usually in an abusive relationship too, they've got you so secluded and feeling so crappy about
So
yourself that
isolated.
you don't know, so isolated, right? And there's so much fear attached to what happens if I leave.
Hmm.
What's going to happen to me, or I don't deserve better, or this is how it's always been because they've never known anything other than that, right? Like there's the, abuse, there's a lot of statistics around children who are watch their parents abusing one another, get into abusive relationships because that's the model they were given,
Yeah.
right? They saw that. I saw that when I was in high school. I dated a guy who Even in grade 6, he tried to hit me, and I was like, "Oh no, I don't think so." But I didn't want to tell my parents because I was afraid that they would say that something would happen. And as we went into high school, I saw him connect with a girl whose mom was being beaten by her dad, and we all knew it. And next thing we know, this girl in high school is showing up with bruises because she's connected with this guy who is abusive because his dad would abuse his mom. And so that's what they know. And it's
Yeah.
from the outside looking in, you'd be like, oh my God, why aren't you leaving? But there's so much on the emotional level that's happening.
Yeah.
And I know we've kind of diverted out off of the divorce grief
Uh,
topic, but it's so
and
important.
and actually, I'm glad that we went off topic, because like for the
Yeah.
people at home, like Amy and I do try to get our shit together and have notes and everything like that. But you raised something, and so I'm going to go completely off script. Is that the abuser in my household was my mother,
Hmm.
and it's fairly common knowledge in our family that my mother was, she wasn't a hitter.
Hmm.
I don't remember. Amy and I have talked about this though, because I don't have a lot of memories. Like my dad took me to swimming lessons. My dad flew kites with me. My dad did everything with me. I was devastated when I was there, as we've talked about before, when he died.
Hmm.
But my mother was a malignant narcissist, which I've done a bunch of research on. So everything came with conditions, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
If you get a B plus, it's not an A. And then as eh, I'll save you all the details, but as my dad aged and got sick, it was a horrific thing. So it's not, I just want to be really careful, is that women can be abusers too. They can neglect
Oh
their
yeah.
Hmm.
children, they can estrange the family, they can cause chaos in
Hmm.
talking to the other family members about what a bitch you are. Um,
Hmm.
so that's a, I've only become familiar, so I just turned 57. I'm about 10 months into understanding the magnitude of my mother's deception, but it's a different kind of abuse. It's twisted and
Hmm.
bullshittery, and it's painful and destroys relationships. And that's something that I don't think that we talk enough about, because women can be like, nasty
Oh, they
in
certainly
in a
can.
different way.
Hmm. The way, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there too, Kim. Like they show up. Women's abuse can be very different. Number one, we're not as physically built as the guys, right? And the guys tend to they can go right to the physical, or they can learn to be the manipulative narcissist, right? Like there's a lot of abuse around that when they're gaslighting and all of that too,
That
right?
one I know too. Yeah.
Yeah. And so do I. So it's, but women, I think because they see women are portrayed as the caregivers and the nurturers and the ones who look after the family, that we don't, you're right, we don't talk enough about the fact that women can be abusive in relationships too. And theirs can be very subtle. Theirs can really dig you on an emotional level, right? They can get you right in the emotions all the time. And
I think
it's
they're the ones too that, like, to what Kim's saying is like it's it's much more emotional to what you're saying as well. And it's like behind the scenes work where in the narcissist type scenario, everybody thinks the narcissist is amazing and that the person that is being abused is like not being abused. And it's like
mhm,
because that's what a narcissist does, right? And it's very difficult because behind the scenes they can trash the shit out of you and like that they isolate you and they sever relationships because everybody thinks that this person is like so hard done by and nobody asks the question about
mhm.
why, right? Why the estrangement? Why is this happening? Nobody asks that question. Everybody just thinks that they just take verbatim what that person's saying. And as women who grew up and, like, to your point with the kids that are like dealing with self-esteem issues, dealing with all this stuff, to get to a point where if their abuser is their mother in that case, just trashing the shit out of them, right? Like that just F's you up. That just like
Mm-hmm.
really messes you up. And
Well, sorry, Amy, I just wanted to add to that too, is that I didn't know about malignant narcissism until about 7 years ago. And I was reading a magazine article and it said the top 10 signs like love bombing, blah, 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 right? And so what Amy and I are talking about, Margaret, we've had separate conversations just between the two of us because, as somebody pushing 60, this was new information and I could finally put a label on what
Mm-hmm.
happened to me. I mean, my mother tried to have me arrested for stealing her dog. Her dog was in bed with me in her condo, and the police stormed in. Like, it was like truly batshit crazy. But I think that now we have a new language only
Mm-hmm.
in the last couple years.
Yeah.
well,
And we also, sorry, Amy, we also are talking about everything more now. Our parents grew up in a time where we didn't talk about it, right?
No.
And when you think about my grandmother and my mom, like going back just 2 generations, they grew up in a time where you don't make a fuss, you don't complain, you don't talk about it. And also in a time where there was no family law. So what happened in the home, you could do whatever you wanted. Family law didn't come into effect until I think 84. I'd have to Google that. I took it at university and it was still fairly new. And I remember being blown away by the fact that anything could happen in the family. And it was literally whatever the dad said goes. And nobody
so
interfered with the family, right? It was
and
crazy.
bringing it all like we're all over the place sort of today, but that
Uh,
was kind of the point. That's kind of the point of
Oh,
this podcast
yeah.
specifically because it's all intertwined and it's like
Mm-hmm.
who knows what any of us are going to say. But because we're way off script now, so we're way off our questions. But I would say too that like if I was bringing it back to um, trauma and divorce, I would say that, like, with a trauma situation, like we're talking about, that's an isolating situation. Plus, like, basically, you're used to it and that's all you
Mm-hmm.
know. And then, um, interestingly enough, when I finally left my first husband, um, there's grief involved in that for what it is. Not
Mm-hmm.
like I was like, please take me back, because I was just like,
Right.
no, not happening. But there's still grief, and I think that's important to kind of show. But
Mm-hmm.
also, something hit me sideways that I didn't expect, and it was the fact that because people don't see everything, our entire friend group was a merged group that kind of started with him. And every single one of them, even the ones that knew he was abusive, dropped me. And so not only did I not really have a family connection because of my difficult past, I didn't have my husband's connection anymore. I didn't have my in-laws anymore, and I didn't have the majority of my friend group. Everyone dropped me as if because the thing is that when you're the one that shines a mirror, when you're the one that shows people that there's issues, you're the trouble causer, and
Mm-hmm.
nobody wants to deal with that. They would rather hang out with the abuser and just forget I even existed, to which most of them did. And it took me at least 6 years to get past that because I didn't have
Mm-hmm.
any language. I didn't have any support to be able to describe what was happening. I didn't have a good family support that would like, they didn't jump in at any point, right? Like it's like they kept saying, "Oh, we saw all of this," and it's like, didn't they just left me there by myself?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that happens more than we know. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that that's a really scary thing from walking away as well, is that when you walk away, you need to, and especially in this type of situation, you need to be prepared to be isolated, and you need to just understand that that is a real thing that might happen. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not because of you. When you walk away from
Yeah.
any of these relationships, it's not you. You're just the truth teller. You're just the mirror that's shining on these people, and they don't like it. And so,
Mm-hmm.
therefore, you're the one that's wrong, right? And
Yeah.
that's a lot to handle.
Yeah. Because you're the one that is now making everybody else uncomfortable because nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to see it. And nobody wants to admit that they didn't do anything to help you.
Yeah.
right?
And you know, to your point, Margaret, is that in I always refer to my first husband as the one that I like. I never talk about the second one. I loved his family. Like
Hmm.
his family was so good to me. Like truly, like my mother-in-law is an amazing person. We still text sometimes. I still text with my ex-husband when he's doing fundraising and like Dragon Boat and stuff like that. But I lost out of respect. I couldn't be in that family anymore. And so
Hmm.
I lost people that I truly loved
Hmm.
because we couldn't make our relationship work. And I still miss them to this day. And it's been, oh my God, like 24 years or something like that, because they were my family for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm talking about like intense Newfoundland family,
Hmm.
right? Like there was a lot
Yeah.
of love going on there. And then
Yeah.
I was out.
Gone.
Hmm. And that is like, no matter what your situation is, so whether you're in an abusive situation or you grow apart, you can't make it work, whatever it is that the reason is, when you get a divorce, there is always grief attached to that. Always, always, always. And to your point too, Kim, you lose so much because depending on so many different factors, it's such a layered experience. And yeah, not feeling comfortable. What if your ex starts dating again? Do you want to be the person that's still hanging out at the family meals with the ex and his new partner with the mother-in-law? And I know I found that with mine. I loved my sister-in-law and her husband and their kids. Like it was great when we all got together. And we tried for a couple of years after I got divorced to, like, every time we were down in Toronto, they're like, "Oh, bring Lily by. It'd be great to see her." And every time we've seen each other since, which has been very sporadic, it's been fine. But it's not a relationship that I felt comfortable continuing to nurture because it wasn't my family.
But
And
that's
it's
loss,
hard.
right?
It
Like I
is the
went through
loss.
a grieving process.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know how to put words to it because nobody had died.
Mm-hmm.
He and I were still speaking and trying to arrange raising a kid, but like it's like your family just got axed in half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You suffer more than just the loss of the relationship. There's so many residual losses, right? There is the loss of the other half of the family. There's a loss of any of your social circle. Like I lost pretty much
Oh,
everybody
right.
because all of the people that were our friends were his guy friends and their wives. And I was close to one of the wives and I was friends with another. And it was really awkward because you're like, yeah, not really. And then they were like, when you start dating a new guy, they're like, bring him over. I'm like, yeah, no, 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 it just doesn't work with that because then I'm in a new dynamic, make him uncomfortable, me uncomfortable. But we lost that huge social circle too. And
And
it wasn't
also
just me.
people don't want to invite you over when you're single.
Hmm.
The couples dinners.
Yeah, because
Because
they don't
I
want you
was
to be
single.
uncomfortable.
I was single for, I don't know, like 20 years after that. And yeah, you're not part of
Hmm.
the whole like couple dinner party thing.
No. And part of it, I've heard both sides. Part of it is you as the single person may not always feel comfortable being there either. At least not in the beginning. I wasn't in the beginning. I remember running out of a party bawling my eyes out because my I watched my friend give her husband a kiss on the cheek and it just hit me that I would never do that again. Right. And it was just like, oh, I can't do this. It was only 6 weeks later, but I was still like, no, even though I chose to leave, I was the one who walked away. It's still grieving, but it wasn't just my loss of the social circle either. I had a daughter and her friends were part of their kids group, right? And so she lost out on her social circle too. So it was rebuilding for both of us and for him. He did his own thing. I didn't really keep tabs too much, but it's the loss of your social network. It's the loss of your family. In some cultures, it's a loss of your connection to your culture if divorce is not supported. It could be loss of your spiritual or religious community. Again, if their divorce is not supported and you are now like the heathen who got a divorce, You could be ousted from your entire culture or your spiritual community. It also impacts your finances. It impacts, you got to now find another place to live, or you're staying in the family home, and staying in the family home comes with its own grief too, because every time you walk somewhere, you're being reminded. And there's so many different layers. Like, people don't understand sometimes that there's going to be different feelings coming up. You're going to be sad, but you'll probably be angry, resentful, disappointed. You're now mourning not only the divorce, but the life you thought you would have, the life you thought your children would have, the security, if it was financial, if you're no longer able to support yourself to the same level. Like, the layers of grief are huge when you go through a divorce, and they're emotional as well as all kinds of other aspects that we just talked about.
I
I
do feel
remember,
every time, sorry, Amy, but I do feel every time we're on the show that I feel shallow and self-absorbed, because if you could explain for our audience, you've had the worst grief and loss that certainly I could imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell people how you came into this profession from your very personal experience?
Sure. Sure. So I went through 6 years of infertility and treatments that didn't work, and then finally did. And I was a high risk pregnancy. I was pregnant with twins. So we were like, woohoo, 2 for 1, right? We'll finally have the family we wanted. But I went into labor at 5.5 months, and the babies came early, and my son was very, very sick, and my daughter was stable. And so we had them at the Ottawa General, right? Like, literally beside the NICU. And my son suffered a grade 4 brain bleed when they tried to give him the bliss for his lungs. They had to give it to him twice, and he had crazy potassium levels, but he was very, very sick, and my daughter was very stable. And we saw him in a lot of pain, and 3 days after they were born, we chose to take him off life support, and he passed away. And so then I spent the next 6.5 months in the neonatal intensive care unit with my daughter. So becoming a mom that way was never in the cards of what I thought I would have. I thought it would be easy peasy, right? No. And then we brought her home on tube feeding and oxygen at 6.5 months old, weighing 5.5 pounds. Like, she 500%ed her weight, but she was still itty bitty. And so going through that, like, it's going to the hospital every day, like, people are like, how did you do it? I'm like, I now know I have the words for it. I'm like, I had my grief brain was kicked in. It was all about like one step, and you just focus on one thing. It's get up, get dressed, drive to the hospital, be there, focus on her. And because I have focused on my daughter, I really didn't get a chance to grieve. Like, I would grieve at home, I would cry, but when I was at the hospital, I was focused on her. So you're loving, and you cannot have two emotions, experience them at the exact same time. They can go back and forth. You can love and grieve and love and grieve and love and grieve, but you can't be loving and grieving at the exact same moment. And so going through that grief was really hard, but I literally put all my energy into her and helped her go through her grief, right, as she was growing up. And then back, was it 2021, when I did my TED Talk, that was when the floodgates opened. I thought I was fine because I could talk about Isaac. I actually have his name on my arm from camp. My daughter decided to write his name, her name, and our dog's name in henna. Oh, lovely.
This one's like inked in, but yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm going to get the kid's name somewhere sometime. I just haven't quite figured out where. But I did a talk because I just want to talk about the loss, to normalize it, to let other women know that they're not alone, right? It happens. It happens a lot more often than we realize, that when twins are born, especially early, there's a high percentage that you may lose one. And it's a really crazy emotional time to go through. But I did my TED Talk, and then it kind of propelled me into the world of grief, because I got upset about the fact that we suck at it, and we don't teach it, and we don't talk about it, and people run from it, which I've now learned why, because our brain is programmed to run from anything that's a threat, and grief is a threat. And then I was also a coach, and people just kept saying, are you going to coach, are you going to coach women in grief? No, I'm not going to do that. Why would I do that? I will just take on everything. And I really thought I would be the sponge for all their emotions. I didn't think I could handle it. until I started coaching in grief and realized actually I can handle it really well. I can hold space for these women and give them a safe space to be vulnerable and share things they've never ever talked about before. I have women saying to me, I've never said this out loud. And it's been 10 years, right? I've it's it's an honor to be that person for those women because we don't talk about grief. And there's the unsaid expectations within society that after a certain amount of time, we don't want to hear about it. Right. Like we don't want to hear about your grief a year later because we're over it. We've moved on. How come you can't? Or, and all these things, but grief does not have a timeline. I tell that to everybody. I'm like, you don't get over it. You learn how to incorporate it into who you are and into this new person that you've become because this experience has impacted you. And so 10, 20, 30 years later, you could still be triggered by something happening. You smell their perfume or you see, I still get teary when I see moms out with babies, with twins, boy and girl twins, right? Because I'm like, oh, that was what we were planning. And I have grief for my daughter because she doesn't have her brother. She talks to him all the time and he's here around all the time. You can feel him, but which is pretty crazy. He plays with her lights, whether people believe that or not. It's crazy. I walk in, I'm like, who's flickering your lights? She's like, Isaac. I'm like, okay, great. He's around. But how do you support your kid who lost out on a brother that she knew intimately? They're connected. And so it's supporting your children, supporting yourself, supporting my husband at the time, right? Like he was grieving, but I'll tell you, we didn't talk much about it. We just cried a lot. But he dealt with his grief his way. I dealt with mine because you isolate, you go within, you're like, I'm just trying to breathe right now. And having had those experiences, and then, we actually 8 years later, we were divorced. Losing a child, going through infertility impacts your relationship for sure. Other things outside of that also impact the relationship. And it's really, really hard, really hard. But I don't know. The TED Talk was my cracking open. That was where I realized because I literally spent 3 months writing and crying. Like my pages were tear soaked. I didn't even think I was going to be able to say my speech because there were sections in the speech that I would get to and I would just be like a basket case. And I had to go do EFT with my cousin like 5 times in a row before I'm like every day, right, leading up to this talk so that I could just process and be okay. And I'm glad I did that because I was able to do my speech without breaking down. It was a little teary in a few moments, but I did my speech without breaking down. And that process of crying and just letting out all the emotions is what is missing in our society right now because we don't encourage people enough to release the emotions. And so that's what I do with my clients is I'm like, you want to cry, cry. You want to scream, scream. You want to, punch a punching bag, go do that. And there's a lot of processing because emotions are energy in motion. And if you don't move them through your body, you don't let them out, then they're going to just build up. And that's when you have that pressure cooker feeling like anything's going to set you off and make you cry, or you're feeling depressed, or you can't sleep, or you can't focus. It's such a huge knock on. And I just learned recently, which I think is really cool. Your tears have different chemicals depending on why you're crying. So when you're crying from grief, when you're crying from grief, your tears are actually healing. Which is pretty cool. But if you cry when you get, if you get something in your eye and your eye waters and you get tears, those are different chemically compounded tears than if you're crying from emotion. Isn't that cool? I was like, that is very cool.
But I'm going to throw Amy under the bus here with a question.
Okay.
Her heart rate goes up when she's having grief stress.
Okay.
Because her new fancy watch. I don't have it on, but she's got
okay.
I'd never heard of this before.
I didn't know. I mean, I intellectually knew that I was stressed out, and I've only had this watch for a couple days, and my husband is great. He'll listen to me, but like nobody knows what to do with you, like anybody, right? Like you just have to handle yourself, and then he's there if I need him, but whatever. And so it gave me the opportunity. after a very stressful event like 2 days ago, my watch went nuts. And it was like
Mm-hmm.
high stress, like alert, alert, go do something else, alert. And I was like I was able to show it to him. And
Mm-hmm.
like it was more impactful, I think, because it was like not just me talking about talking. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
like literally I'm just going through my life and I was triggered and it was extensive. And so it was
Mm-hmm.
like it was a really interesting thing that happened. And I think that like so now I'm trying to like learn because this watch gives me a lot of different things to look at and trying to learn what that cycle looks like because
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get my stress levels down because I was dealing with a possible uterine cancer. And so
Mm.
I'm trying to deal with the excess estrogen, which is caused by stress and cortisol and all that stuff. And so I'm literally working on it all the time. And to your point before about people not understanding the grief, like I'm dealing with estrangement, I'm dealing with like all the stuff, right? And it's again, my husband's very supportive, but I find that I have to like it's not just like over and done with, especially when you're
Mm-hmm.
triggered
Yep.
consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I'm very verbal with him and I'm just like tell him like what's happening. But like it's difficult because he's connected, but he's not connected like I'm
Mm-hmm.
connected. And so it's really difficult to like tell him. And like if I'm just like crying randomly, it's and he'll be like, "Oh my God, what's wrong?" Because he wants to fix it. I'm like, like you just can't fix it." Like I'm just like, "Let
Mm-hmm.
me do my thing," right? And I'm just like doing it. It's kind of awkward,
Mm-hmm.
but luckily I'm in a good relationship at this point, so that he just kind of lets me do my thing. But he's slowly learning as my partner what like if my daughter does something, I'm trying to explain to him why it's triggering me because the other day I was like she was fighting like my mother, for instance, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just like trigger, 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 trigger. And I was like, you got to get her out of here because I'm just like overstimulated at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really interesting, like trying to live your life, but like be in grief that you never know when it's going to end,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you have
Yep.
to like, I don't know, I feel like I have to run at a runway eventually of grief, and eventually it won't be as difficult, but you're just kind of living your life until.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there's a lot of what I do with my clients is making their healing intentional, right? It's not just winging it. It's not just like, oh, okay, well, it'll
What?
happen, it'll go away, right?
I
One
just
of
want
the
to, I just want to wing the
You just
shit
want to
out
wing it.
of it. What do you
Yep,
mean I
just want
can't
to
wing
wing
it?
it. Yeah, yeah, don't wing it. Don't wing it. It's very intentional. And you actually, I think in grief, we feel like we have no control over our emotions. We have no control over the grief. Like, and there are times it's going to hit us like a wave, like a Mack truck, and we're going to be caught, bawling our eyes out in the grocery store. Been there, done that a few times. That has been me. Um, or driving down the road and a song comes on the radio and all of a sudden you can't see because you're sobbing and snot's running down your nose and you're like trying to find a Kleenex and not run into the cars, right? I've had that happen to me a few times too. But with the healing and grief, it's so, so important to honor every single emotion that you feel and allow yourself to feel it. And that is freaking scary because when we think about crying, and we're grieving, we're like, I'm going to start crying. I'm never going to stop. That's what we feel, right? We're like, if I start crying, it's a flood. I'm never going to be able to stop. But when you think about toddlers having a tantrum, I love to give this analogy. They'll tantrum for as long as they tantrum, and then they're going to get tired and they're going to go, that little shaky breath. And then they're like, oh, and they collapse and they fall asleep because they're exhausted. Well, guess what? You're going to do the same thing. You're going to cry until you're exhausted and you're going to go, and then you're going to go have a nap or you're going to pull yourself together and continue with your day, whatever it is that you have to do, but giving yourself the time to cry. And I give my clients to like set a timer for 5 minutes if you're afraid you're going to get lost in it. Set a timer and then give yourself permission to cry. Give yourself permission to be angry. Give yourself permission to honor whatever feeling is coming up in you. Maybe it's like, I just want to like punch the crap out of things but be careful what you do with that. Don't break dishes and stuff unless that's, go to Value Village and buy a set and then smash them. I've told people to do that too. If you really want to break something, find something that you're not going to regret breaking later, right? In the moment. but finding those outlets for the emotion. Maybe you're not good at verbalizing how you feel. Draw it, paint it, color it, doodle it, get a journal and just start whatever your words come out. Give it, put it in motion and let it be there, because healing at the deep emotional level is what's going to help you heal to move forward. And it's going to take time, and it's going to take as long as it takes. There is no timeline for healing, none. And everybody heals differently. Everybody has their own experiences that they're bringing to the table. So my background from birth to today is different from Amy's and different from Kim's and different from everybody else's. So when we experience something, we're bringing all of that to the table in that moment. And anything that hasn't been healed comes right up as well. And all of a sudden you're like, why is this tiny little thing making me so crazy? Well, because you haven't dealt with it, and
Yeah,
it's
just
just
because
been
you don't deal
carried
with it
forward.
doesn't mean it
Yeah,
doesn't go away.
exactly.
Let's talk just at the end of our session here. Let's talk about some of the things that can help people. So some of the things
Mm-hmm.
that I'm doing are EFT, which is tapping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, love it.
I'm doing that daily at this point,
Mm-hmm.
and that's been helpful. But it didn't. I want to also forewarn people. It didn't actually really start helping until I had consistency. And so, like about 3 weeks into doing it consistently, then I mean, the ideal, I believe, is like if you're yawning while you're doing it, that's like the release of it, right? And so it didn't happen right away. And so I think that it's we need to make sure that people understand that all things don't happen immediately. You have to
Mm-hmm.
go blind faith that they're going to work, really. And so I've been doing that. And I've also been doing some meditation and some like just, I'm not a big meditator, but because I've researched it and I can label now what's happening to me and I can label my emotions, all that stuff took me
Mm-hmm.
a long time to figure out. But if you're working on it all the time, then eventually you'll get to that point. A lot of us need to heal our inner child. A lot of us need to like be in touch and calm whatever's happening, especially when we're dealing with estrangement or traumatic divorce. Divorce is traumatic, I guess, anyway, but if it's like
Mm-hmm.
mixed in trauma and that type of
Yeah.
stuff specifically, um, there's an inner child situation where like you just have to, from what I've read, kind
Mm-hmm.
of be one with that. What else am I doing? I'm trying to get my physical and mental health back because stress triggers physical problems as well. And so that's been fun, having a great
Mm-hmm.
time over here with that. Margaret, what do you got?
Oh, wait,
Oh my goodness. Yeah, go
I
ahead,
have
Kim.
I just make myself the Hoover Dam.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to feel anything. I don't want to burst the banks of the Hoover Dam. I have become the queen of lock it up in a box and put it on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
Until she met me. She still does that, but I poke her a bit more now
Yeah.
because we
Yeah.
talk about hard things. And so I
She,
poke her. You also do that, what do you call it? Sleeping goat or whatever?
oh, fainting goat.
Fainting goat. Like if Kimothy disappears after dealing with something hard, she's totally asleep somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So
and that's your body's way of dealing with whatever you're not releasing, right? Like your body's
Fainting
like, okay,
goat.
you're tired. You're tired. Um, so everybody deals with grief differently. What works for you, Amy, and works for you, Kim, isn't necessarily going to be what works for me or anybody else. Like you have to find your own thing. I actually have a course that I teach called the Grieving Blueprint, where we go through a number of different areas of the grief process and people figure out what works for them. Some people it's journaling. Some of it is I got to run, I got to go to the gym, I got to hike. Some of it is I just need to sit outside in the sunlight and let the sun beat on my face and let me feel the warmth. Other people is a hot bath or go for a massage. Others are I need to like pound my pillow for a while and just like get so angry that I'm releasing. There is, some people find it in art. I know with my ex-husband, they lost his dad suddenly when he was 16, and his sister would have been 18 or 19, and she was at university as an artist. You should see her paintings during those times. Dark red, black. But that's how she worked through her grief, was through art. A lot of people can't verbalize how they feel, which makes sense because these are all feelings and they're all compounded and layered. And it could be doodling, it could be journaling, it could be going, maybe you have to go on antidepressants for a little while. Maybe you need some support through doctors or holistic medicine, Reiki, meditation, sound baths, things that can help attune the body. The worst thing you can do, though, sorry, Cam, don't package it up and put it on the shelf, because it will follow you around. And when we carry it around for too long, that's when we start seeing the physical manifestation of grief. We get skin rashes, we have issues, we have joint pain, we have headaches. I was big on migraines. We like all of it. Plus, add to the fact that we're right in the menopause stage, so we're just compounding all that shit right on top
I
of it.
feel
So
like this is an intervention that
It
like
is. I asked Margaret to come on
Like-
today because you need an intervention.
the intervention is like, I
Yeah.
am in intense PTSD therapy, and this is all
Mhm.
that I do talk about, is that all my boxes on the shelf cracked and collapsed.
Yeah.
The ones getting
Mhm.
hit by a car tends to kind of do that
Yeah.
to oneself. But I think that all of those are great. The question I would ask is, when you're in a state of grief, you're sometimes planning a funeral, you're trying to do
Mhm.
this. That seems like really time consuming. Like that's a
Mhm.
lot of stuff. Like, do I like Reiki? Do I like massage? Do I like,
Oh, so here's
it's
my
like
thing
a
that I would
lot.
say to that is, when you're in the intense grief at the very beginning, don't worry about all that other shit. Your
Oh,
brain,
okay.
you actually have something called grief brain. When you have that initial impact of the grief, the really deep grief, it's kind of like mummy brain. When you have a kid and you come back and you're like, I'm so tired and I can't think straight. That's exactly what happens with grief brain. Your brain literally releases neurochemicals into your brain that will make you have it difficult to make decisions. It may make you tired. It may make you unfocused, but what it allows you to do is focus on one thing at a time. Like, I have to plan a funeral. And so when people say, I can't believe they made it through that, well, your brain had you so numbed out and focused on what it is you needed to do to get through those first couple of weeks. That's your brain helping you survive, because if you felt the full flood of that grief, you wouldn't be able to get up off the floor. So your brain kind of numbs you and protects you. And then once that big initial wave goes over and the funeral's over and you've sort of started getting back to normal life, which it's never normal again, it's just different. That's when the heavier stuff comes in. And really, it's like, you can't make a decision. The worst thing you can ask someone who's grieving is, what can I do to help? They have no freaking idea. They're like, I don't know, change my clothes for me because I don't know how to put my new pajamas on. Like, you literally don't know. So the best thing you can do is like, are you going to be home Tuesday night? Great. I'm having dinner delivered. Awesome. You know what? Your kids
Oh,
are going to soccer tomorrow night. I'm going to come pick them up. You can stay home, or I'll just drive all of us. Don't worry about driving. Show up as the person who's making the decision for them, and just let them know what you're doing, because they'll be like, okay, great. That's awesome.
and um sending groceries or delivering
Mm-hmm.
groceries. I will say, when I couldn't walk after the accident,
Mm-hmm.
having groceries just come to me would have been like super helpful.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
I don't even know what I wanted. I just know that my friends would have known that I eat reasonably healthy stuff, but I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't even go on the Instacart to get it
Yep.
delivered because I couldn't go down to my lobby to get it
Mm-hmm.
because I
Yep.
couldn't walk. So,
Mm-hmm.
that is amazing advice, is take the decision making out of it and say, whether you eat this or not, doesn't matter to us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just sending
Yep.
over healthy food and it's
Yep.
going to be delivered right to your door. Like,
Mm-hmm. And in North America and a lot of different countries too, giving food is almost the universal language of I care, right?
yep.
Like, how I got so many fucking casseroles when we did when we had
Yeah.
my son's celebration of life, which it's still foggy. We did it a week after they were born. So they were born on the Saturday, he passed on the Tuesday. We did a celebration of life on the Saturday, and it was just like but I got casseroles. And as much as at the time I'm like, you brought me a casserole. My son died and you brought me a casserole. I was so grateful for those because we threw them in the freezer. And then when we were hungry, I'm like, I don't have to cook. Because literally when you're in deep grief,
100%.
you know what you eat when you're grieving? Nothing.
Shit. You
You
eat
don't
or
eat anything
shit.
or shit. You pull the chips, the ice cream, the feel good, because you start eating your emotion. What's going to be that quick hit that's going to make me feel a little bit better? And
Yeah.
it's mindless. It's not intentional because you're not making decisions. So having people in your circle who will actually come in and say, I'm coming over, I'm going to hang out tonight, and you can talk, don't talk, that's fine. You can cry, don't, whatever you need, I'm there for you. I'm going to bring a movie, and if you want to watch it, great. If not, I'm just going to be in your house with you for the evening. You just tell them you're coming.
See, for
Like,
me, that wouldn't work as well for me, given, our strategies. Not everything works
mm-hmm,
for everybody because I feel the need to entertain people while they're here,
mm-hmm.
and I don't like people in my space. So
Well,
it's like I would
and
rather
so
just
for you,
sit
it
by
wouldn't work.
myself.
Mm-hmm. Well, then, at that point, it's like your friend's calling and saying, "Hey, Aim, I'm coming over. I'm just going to drop this at the front door. That's
Yeah.
it, right? I'm dropping this at the front door for you." Or, you know what? Let's both watch the same movie in our own houses. I don't have to be there. You can sit in your pajamas and we're going to watch it and be on the phone together. If you can handle that, that may be too much for somebody, right? Like
Yeah.
it's,
Margaret, what I love
yeah.
about this is that my friends who had known me for 40 years at this point, what do you need?
Mm-hmm.
I have
No
no effing
idea.
idea what I need. I can't
Mm-hmm.
walk. I can't get food for myself. I am going through a grief situation with some family
Mm-hmm.
members. So I love this advice because it's a way of like um kind of reversing it is that I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to leave this casserole on your step.
Mm-hmm.
Do with it as you like. I'm going to sign up for Netflix for you. I'm going to get your laundry picked up so that, like,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't walk for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I broke my nose trying to get into the shower, and then
Oh,
I had people saying, like, what do you need? I haven't had a
And you
shower
got to
in
make more
2 weeks.
decisions.
Right.
yeah.
I haven't had a shower in 2 weeks and I'm so embarrassed. I don't want you to come
Mm-hmm.
over to my home and see that I've been terrified to get in the shower. I love this idea. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
offer this to you. Maybe a little feedback would be nice. Like, did you
Mm-hmm.
eat it? Should I
Mm-hmm.
send a fruit basket next time? Should I order you Netflix? But I love this idea is that when we're wounded, we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't
Well,
know.
and I think the part of us, the knee-jerk reaction is to try and to be respectful of the other person, right? When we're like, well, what do you need? Right? We're being respectful. What do you need? I don't want to intrude because they
Right?
honestly have no freaking idea.
Yeah.
No idea. If I had someone who said, Margaret, you know what? I'm just gonna drive you back and forth from the hospital this week with that. Wait, I'll be there at 8. I'd be like, okay, because then I don't have to think about the drive. And I was driving from Elmont to the General every day for 6.5 months. And let me tell you, I ate Snickers bar, milkshakes, and occasionally whatever was in the cafeteria because that's where I was living. And Snickers bar were my go-to feel-good food. And so I put on a little bit of weight while I was in postpartum, right? Like, because I was at the hospital. And then when I came home, I was walking everywhere with my daughter and I lost it. But it was, if somebody, you don't know what you need in the really intense moments of grief, you really don't know what you need. And so having your posse around you, it doesn't even have to be like all like 1,000 people. It could be 3 key people, 2 people, one person who just says, this is for you. I'm doing this for you. It's one less decision you have to make. And you are in no situation and no mindset to be making any decisions, right? Your best.
I'll let
So yeah.
Amy wrap up and to be fair, Amy and I had not connected the way that we do now. When my dad
Mhm.
died and my mother was in intensive care at the same effing time.
Mhm.
But I will say there was a friend that I've talked to Amy about, Jennifer, who the Toronto Jennifer. She sent me a text. She knew that on Friday nights I went to the Keg next to the Kingston General Hospital and I had a steak and real food. And
Mm-hmm.
she said, I'm coming. And I said, you live in Toronto?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I'll see you at 7. And she drove in a snowstorm to
Mm.
Kingston to have dinner with me on the one night that I got out of the hospital. And I cried my face off. And it was the first time that I had cried about the fact I was losing both of my parents at the same time. So
Mm-hmm.
this was, see, I almost made it through the hour, almost.
That's
But that's
good.
the kind of thing that is so important is she said, I'll see, like, there was no question. I'll see you at
Yeah.
7. I'll meet you at the Keg.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had this
Amazing.
beautiful dinner, and then I went back to ICU to watch one of my parents dying.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great advice, and I'm going to implement that when I
Mm-hmm.
have friends who are in a difficult situation.
Yeah. Yeah. It is tough to know. And that's part of what I like to do is get out and educate people and say, here's some other alternatives, different ways of looking at things. And yeah. So
Well,
Good
thank you
luck to
for
you, Amy,
joining
wrapping
us.
up this show, man. Good luck to you.
Somebody else make my decisions on how to do this.
Uh,
So, I mean, thank you. As always, you'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get into something else that'll make us cry next time, but we love having you on the show.
Thank
I
you.
think that you shed a lot of light in places that we're trying to shed light on because no one's talking about it and it frustrates the three of us. So
Mm-hmm.
we're just going to keep doing it. Until next time, Margaret, we'll see you then.
Thank
And
you.
for all of our viewers, if you're on YouTube, please like, subscribe, get notified, help us get this a little further. And any of you can find us on any podcast app. We're out there
it's
and
free. It's
it's
completely free.
free. It's
Mm-hmm.
free. And so until the next time, we'll see you on the inner shift.